if anyone had watched that last video, it can be like a preface to this, and it sure enough in the hell cut out as soon as I flashed my badge. But I was just thinking, but I wanted to say that where I was going is that most authority is assumed. So I wanted to say that one, but then even most, but then also the most. So therefore a lot of authority is a problem. It's almost like a necessary evil, because in order to have cooperation you have to have leadership and followership, because anything that's cooperation, people come together in any way, it's going to be dancing. But dancing is whether they're fighting, loving, working, studying, anything, people come together and it's dancing. But that implies leader and follower, I think, is as we would be used to, and so that and so that's like a little degree of like authority that would be invoked when you're, because that's technically authority if you're leading something, because someone would be deferring to your judgment, or something of your strong suit. If to follow is to defer, so, and to lead is somewhat to assume. But from that standpoint, a lot of authority can be problematic at one point. Leading can be problematic at one point, and following can be problematic at one point. So all things can really be problematic at one point. So even the most beautiful things can be problematic at one point, but it's not bad necessarily because it's problematic. Because if we weren't having problems, we wouldn't be challenged, we wouldn't be growing, we wouldn't be improving, we wouldn't be living, we wouldn't be viable. But still, things become problematic at a point. So I wanted to preface that saying that authority can be problematic, but also things that are problematic can also be beneficial at one point. And so I'm going to make a video with this one referencing some style hack and tip, but also to and then also lean and say that, but all things are level and all things get checked. And I've made some videos on this channel talking about how paternalism functions in modern Western society. That is what we have for a society now. We're currently, I think, steeped within digitalism. But we may not always have digitalism, because they say that, according to Nassim Nicholas Taleb, the longer something has been with us, the longer it yet will, may, and likely remain. The shorter something's been with us, the shorter it will, yet, it may likely remain. But it's not necessarily imminent to not remain because it's been shorter, because most things would have had to be shorter at one point. But likely something that's new, the new guy at work likely won't last out, the new guy likely, if anything, wouldn't likely hack it as long as someone that's already been there in season, because there's someone that's seasoned, they've been through the ropes, and they already know what to duck from when they hear those first rounds of problems coming as the new season starts. So they know the best places to hide from the rounds, and the best way to get by situations. So the newer ones likely not to hack it but that doesn't mean they can't hack it and become a big dog or a season, because because the other ones that are big dogs in season would have had to be rookie at one point. But still, you could say that some things of our digital reality are kind of rookie compared to the human experience. And there's a lot of problems that people are experiencing with the modern paradigm. If you think about it, you go to so where's all the digital stuff? A lot of digital stuff is concentrated with like people that are young, savvy, and would also be around cool stuff like maybe learning venues and cool jobs and stuff. But if you think about it, if you go to a lot of a college area, stuff like that, now that the things have become legalized, people appreciate what has been legalized, and what has been legalized had already been legalized by nature, and now we're getting around to it with ourselves to legalize what had been legal, because it might not have been avoided. They don't tell you exactly why they legalized some things. I think that one of the reasons that things have been legalized recently, that by common sense and by ethically, humanely in the past should have been legal, is that there's money to be made there's money to be made in war. So you can make a war out of damn near anything and anything. So they can make something as peaceful and beautiful and humane and wholesome as what has been criminalized. A lot of things that have been criminalized can be criminalized and made a point of war. So you can go. So what's the coolest thing? What's the peaceful thing? I would say some things that have recently been legalized are the cool thing, the peaceful thing, the healthy thing that makes us more of ourselves, therefore more humane, more enjoyable to other people and ourselves. Our experience of life is better with many things, but those things can actually be a point of going to battle. How do you go to battle with what makes you more peaceful? How do you go to war over what makes peace? That's actually how human beings are, because you can go to war wherever there's money. It's something peaceful. It's something not. It's something wicked. It's something not. Does something make money? And it makes money when going to war. So I think that there has been a war on what's been legalized, but that war failed. And also likely the proponents of that war actually may have failed on a lot of levels. I guess I'm gonna take this video in a secondary direction just based on that statement, but that wasn't the primary premise of it. But just to say that so digitalism, what we're in now, it's the new kid on the block, but it's still kind of running the block. If we appreciate it now, is the digitalism, but it may not and may soon not likely always be with us. But even people that are steeped and savvy around digitalism, they're very amenable, agreeable, perceptible, amicable with what had been natural and is recently legalized, and it somewhat fits into the paradigm of digitalism. But a lot of what has led up to digitalism and what is still imminent within digitalism is the antithesis of what is natural. That is, you could almost say that digitalism is the antithesis of what it is to be natural and human and humane, yet it bolsters and somewhat props up and can make it enjoyable to be a human, the digital stuff, but it doesn't make it better to be a human, and it can become a problem at one point. So I think that I just may be making a little bit of an anticipatory, I don't know if that's a word, anticipatory insight, is that some of what we're having for digitalism, as seamless as it makes things comfortable, things like imagine like you had a robot that could do anything that you wanted, and it makes your life better. It answers your beck and call. It got you experiences that you thought you'd never have. It got you all the cool stuff you ever wanted, but you wake up at night and it's just hello. It had been watching you that whole time in your sleep. So this digital stuff, as much as it does great things for us, it's just watching us like that. So it could become a problem at one point. That's okay. I don't need help, Alexa. Alexa, did you just call Alexa? No. That's okay. You can turn yourself off. You can turn yourself off. Alexa does not know how to turn. Can you repeat this? No. So so you can imagine where how that could go, but the digital stuff could become a problem. But going back before digitalism was like capitalism or obviously capitalism, industrialism, sharecropping, so capitalism, sharecropping, industrialism, slavery, indentured servitude, slavery, colonialism, feudalism, imperialism through all that, adventurism, like military adventurism through all that in our heinous human experiences in the human experience the world over, on both sides of any conflict or on all sides of any conflict, including the conflict I referenced with the war on what's become legalized, and maybe some of the real history and brutalities and dynamics of the war on what's recently been legalized. It may not be publicized or largely understood to the general public, because you would probably have some interest in concealing the real dynamics and some of the heinous outcomes of that war, but it's still war. And so going all the way back, but through all that, going all the way back, I reduce that to gentrification. That finer than gentrification is nepotism, that is extending privilege and benefits, that entitlement that amount to the capacity to enjoy and sustain life upon the earth for human beings. And then all the way, then I guess before that, I don't know what you would call chauvinism, or like deprivation, or a system of overlaying power upon the earth that's based on religion. Maybe you could call that a monarchy. So that might actually be the oldest form of oppression human societies the world over may have likely been monarchy, and there would likely be they say no separation of church and state, but a monarchy would be the exact collaboration and conspiring of church and state and ruler. That's like isolated power, and we may have never left that. If you think about that on a way, we may have been given a different veneer, but we may have actually never left that. Is the way that the real mechanics go, and we may actually not know who the real ruler of our jurisdiction actually is. The real apex of power. I doubt it's the people that we're presented with that can that can be that can be reasoned to be puppets on a lot of levels, and also also a little bit of conceited or I don't want to use the word that people that promulgates about being appreciating yourself, but a lot of them have been that and puppets, and that's not the strongest position or standpoint. So you could appreciate that if there is isolated power, the real apex of power, it may likely be like a committee. But even still, anything has a pecking order, so there'd be like a leader of a committee. It's something somehow we know next to nothing about, and are maybe better for knowing nothing about as we're making statements. But all I meant to say is that but throughout all of that, from if you want to say the monarchy had been the first one, maybe you could say the family would be the first, because the real power in life, real standing, say so, it comes from a family. And then if there was any leadership in a community, it would be some form of family that is a close network of association, whether blood or not. That would be like a family. So you could maybe say the original power, all power, it has been sustained throughout, but the original power, it was still family. The first place, the present place, and I'm saying broad human experience as present place, and the latter place will likely be family, is where power came from. You can appreciate how brutal a family structure, experience of family can be if it doesn't suit you. You can also appreciate how benefiting a family is when it does serve you or suit you. I've been on hard times near and abroad, and I got through a lot of that based on the word, the standing, the respect, the credit, the purchasing power, which is also the credit, the name of the family, has got me through a lot of stuff near and abroad. So that's, but then also I've had challenge, we all have challenges with our family, but also blessings with our family. But family might actually be the real unit of power. You can call all things different things, but it had been family that whole time. So you could say that some of these wicked experiences in the human experience are just a broader network or system or experience of family, as it is not serving human beings, but it's still family within that, and organized along that line. But the actual so if the unit of if the original and still and likely latter unit and mechanism of power on earth, because humans are very powerful in the first place, but then the aggregating of human beings, and also the duties placed upon an individual human being or a group, are still somehow a feature of family. So actually family is the most potent, forceful thing. If you wanted to recognize the most potent thing, I've thought that is breath. Nothing can be achieved greatness without somehow being benefited or sustained by breathing. But still, there's no coming into life or breathing without family. So the most powerful, sublime, and awesome thing is actually family. But then the gauge of power within family, and the actual dispensation and organization of a family, not necessarily from like filial, that's like duty and love owed up to or down from a parent, that's called filial. The actual the organization of the family, it doesn't necessarily have to be filial, because it can also be from siblings, or then broader extended family, and then a community that experiences a family as its own family, as it's under the sway of that family, or helps that family, or injures that family. It's still family. Is broader than just filial from parent to child to parent, whether a young or a grown child, but still that. But with the actual gauge and the expression of family, the structure of it is along paternalism. So you could say that the greatest So the greatest of feats can be accomplished by breathing. You want to improve anything, you're going to be having to breathe to do that. You want to just sustain your existence, you have to breathe. But then finer than that would be the family. Is what makes life viable. But then with what makes the family viable, that is the because you have to have respect to have a family. Therefore, you have to have deference and difference. And so a family is almost like this reality where it's homogeneous. It's made up of similar members. Some could say the same of members, because you're something of your relative. You're something of all people, but you're more recently something of your family. But then you're also disparate, that is distinct, heterogeneous. So a family, like reality itself, is both homogeneous and heterogeneous and dynamic for being both, and transcendent for being both, and greater than both, and the same as both, and less than the other, and all at once. It is reality. But then the actual application, expression, so the highest power, even beyond family, the power within a family, is paternalism. Is actually and paternalism is the essence, or the experience, sensation, or implication of deferring to another's judgment, trusting another's judgment beyond our own, or also being subjected to another's judgment in the form of duty or penalty, or maybe instruction, beyond, to supersede one's own will, to defer one's own will, to curtail one's own will, to bridle one's will to another's liking, choosing, or strength, or the perception of that, or judgment. Especially judgment, probably the highest might be judgment. The perception of that, the application, experience, but also the perception and the potential for that, is paternalism. So all your what I want to say is all your player moves, all the things you have going on for you in life, all of that is checked by, and sustained by, and managed by, and tolerated by paternalism. So it had been paternalism is the sheriff. Really, the real sheriff had not been John Wayne or the bad guys, had been paternalism is the real sheriff. But then that also gets checked, because if you really are having paternalism, and you really are competent to express paternalism and tolerated for it, you would also have to defer to what's naive, or what's vulnerable, and that's caring. So you would, if you really are paternal, or able to express paternalism, but also to be respected for expressing paternalism, and therefore viable as a proponent and agent of paternalism, on some level you would have to demonstrate, to at least to sell that, to operate like that, but then also to sell it. The combination of how much you are operating like that effectively, interdependently, to a humane, beneficial outcome, or just to sell that and still have the dynamic at play, the pull of the dynamic at play, you would have to express competence around care. So that might be somewhat. So what is modern people? What is modern the power structure of the Western society? What is it highly preoccupied on? What does it value? What does it salute? What does it esteem? What does it convey? What does it employ to maintain power? A combination of military force, whether military, paramilitary, legal, educational. That might be a little more vague with education. I hadn't thought that out, but just to express force, that is the power over life and death, gunpoint, authority, all that. It's neatly attended and next to and dovetails, and as a secondary wing is care. So your medical professions, but also your legal professions, like they say social workers, bureaucrats would be part of that, because they make sure that the care and the force is being employed appropriately. But or they at least they sell that, and they give the public the perception that they're doing that, and the public then supports the military and the care and the bureaucracy. But the sensation is important as the actual reality, whether or not that's true. And that actually might be exactly where things break down or come into conflict, is when the sensation and the reality, there's a discrepancy there, and it can't be overlooked. That actually might be when, because a lot of people do things half-assed, halfway, And we, a lot of people, we, if you say all, so all of us, we have to excrete. We all pass out. I don't mean to be vulgar with this, but we all shit in a day. We all pass out shit. You could say that maybe similarly, it's inevitable and unavoidable to not be somewhat full of shit to a little bit each day. So maybe that's what is being honest, is getting past however much. You have to pass through shit to stay healthy daily. And you could say that all of us got a little bit of bullshit about us, and also whatever we do, there's something a little bit of bullshit of whatever we do, because anything can be done better. So anything we're doing, any craft, any skill, any project, any employment, anything we do, there have to be just a little bit of bullshit in what we do to get by with that. And that might be when things are checked and reviewed, is when it just can't, when it stinks that bad, it can't be overlooked. But you would have to, so it's important. A lot of this is modern society, it operates along paternalism, but then with that, it has to express both force at times and also the imminent potential for force, which is part of the sensation and the application expression of paternalism. But then also care with that, and care would be the actual the be all. Care would probably be the highest tier of that. Is that who cares? So a lot of people say, man, who cares? Yeah, whoever does care would actually be running the show and would be something to be concerned about. So I don't care. Yeah, that's why you're not the boss, because you don't care. And one day you're going to have that attitude of I don't care in front of the boss, and then you're going to get called out for not caring in front of the boss, whether it's something you're supposed to care for or just the attitude. If we play around with I don't care, at a certain point, it's gonna get checked by someone that actually does care enough to care and can therefore address who doesn't care competently. But the exception proves the rule. So FFI, no, maybe it is better not to care, as that's what. So what's good, what's bad, what sells, that's the bottom line in a lot of people's mind. But so the exception proves the rule. But I still say who cares would be who's boss. So who's the real boss? Who's yeah, I know, but who's the boss? But who's the boss here? I know, I just want to, but who's the boss? I want to talk to the boss. The boss had been who cares is the boss. Care is the boss. So maybe if someone calls you a Care Bear, that might be the coldest thing that someone could ever call you. The best thing someone could ever call you. So paternalism will check anything. Paternalism will check anything and any style. I think they say that fighting is a matter of stance, that thereby a matter of style. And so sometimes if you do like the math of fighting, or just the math of different power, anywhere tournament, anywhere people are engaging, anywhere people are dancing, and I don't necessarily mean like sublime dancing, but just anywhere people have a dance going on, it's going to come down to stance and then style. But actually what checks all of that, I think it might be the actual coldest style, is paternalism. So I had an example of that, and I wanted to shout that out before I preface this video. That's a different style hack. Is that I was at a Starbucks. I won't say where I was at, but I was at a venue, and a lady came in, and she had some people with her, and they were like ordering. She was like running, like ordering like drinks for people. And it's interesting because sometimes you can appreciate a situation differently if you have the context, just simply by sitting somewhere and watching someone come in after you that hadn't experienced that venue, but also the people there when in their absence, and then seeing how that place engages them. It shows like a little bit of context. So like there were some people working, and I walked in, I ordered something, and then I spent a lot of times I don't like loiter. I don't spend a lot of time in places unless I'm on my ass and I have to charge. I have a reason to be there, like charge a phone or something. And certain places are better than others for charging a phone. In different areas, the whole region, like some place, like for example, gas stations. Some gas stations, even the same brand of gas station, within city limits, they'll be different than what's outside of city limits, and outside and outside of city limits, they'll have different amenities than they have in city limits, because there's different dynamics. And one is that the same gas station, you can't charge a phone the same way at the same gas station, and you also can't like sit down in the same gas station, because some will have chairs to sit at and some don't know what the hell you mean when you're trying to sit down somewhere. But some brands, they actually have sturdy places to charge your phone wherever you go to that franchise, anywhere. And those are some of the hacks to know when you're a marginal person, or just a person that can be marginalized without a lot of difficulty in different circumstances. It's good to know some of the means of getting by with the basic least of amenities that are available, or accommodations, when you're actually in a lot of difficulty, and the only access you have to civilization is what you will be tolerated in some of these establishments that are profit centered. So it can be rough like that. But I was in that, and I'm not in that situation now, but I'm coming from that situation, and then I was in that venue, knowing what I could expect or not expect in that venue. And there were some people, like they were like, one way when I walked in, I walked in, I ordered something, they weren't saying much to me. They weren't rude, but they just weren't saying much to me. Then I sit down and I actually listen to them get on and like gossip and banter and stuff like that. And they were talking about, like, they're like grown people, like grown adults, and they're like talking about like video games and stuff like that. And like I'm not trying to cast aspersions about video games, but I'm just saying that that one is that whatever you do that you enjoy, that's because they were working hard. That's difficult work to like it's difficult to serve things in the first place, because it takes a degree of humility to serve another person, especially another adult, as an adult. But then on top of that, some of these things are so fine, and attention to detail and nuance, and there's so much multitasking, nuance, care, and rigor and challenge and demand, both socially and like with hard skills, like in something like serving, is that it's really quite an arduous feat, and it's valiant actually to do a job like serving well is valiant. And in the book O by Daisetsu Suzuki, an actual tea master was an actual and quintessential example of some of the elegance and grit and grace and that can come with serving tea. But when traveling with his master, he was accosted and challenged by a Ronin samurai, and he was obliged to have a life and death duel, because his master's honor was that question whether or not he was trained or had a background in fighting. He was invoked because his master's honor was invoked, but he availed himself of a random last minute crash training course with an actual master, and the master recognized something of mastery in the tea master, and he didn't know he said you actually already are a master. The same way you serve tea is the same way you may approach this Ronin. And just when he approached the Ronin was expecting to have like an easy, horrible, heinous victory over taking advantage of another person by the actual by the play on honor that they had invoked. And a lot of actually fighting it's a play on honor. Similarly, in modern context, when somebody gets another person up to and in the position of fighting, obliged to fight by honor, once having assumed that stance, it was actually a play on honor and a maneuver a lot of times. And a lot of people wouldn't be maneuvering that way unless they had seen the potential for victory and or gain by engaging a person. But that person was able to, when that Ronin went to assassinate him in a mismatch, he was taken aback by the man's confidence and confidence. That's an expression of self-possession, that is control over our mind, will, and emotion, body, and just by embracing who he actually had been at that point. And he was actually ran off by that and humbled by that, just the degree of self-possession. And he thought twice, and somehow that tea master survived that, because he stepped into and felt into his actual self-possession that had been curated by serving tea. But some of these people that work at these venues, you can imagine how hard they're working. So to them, their time off is very valuable to them. And so whether that were video game or whatnot, you're working that hard. You call it rock, I call it roll. But anything you enjoy is what you enjoy, and no one can judge you for what you enjoy. And whatever you do enjoy makes you happier therefore healthier, therefore able to do more, therefore stronger, able to be compensated more, therefore stronger. So that might be the actual most mature thing you can do, is just simply what you enjoy. And if you look at what we enjoy, and that we really enjoy for its own sake, it doesn't have to be, and it's likely not necessarily any more or less consequential than what anyone else would do. Because one is that it might just be fun for the sake of fun, or if it's just rudimentary, or maybe it would seem mundane, or not towards an objective, it's making you happier and healthier and able to do your job better, which makes other people happy and healthier and able to do their job better. So from that standpoint, it's as beneficial and worthwhile and useful as anything else, if it simply keeps you happy and content. But I was listening to these guys, and they were like talking about video game, this and that. And then one of the ladies asked the guy, one on a date, and he was like, what day is it for? So I don't know. I really just like silence these days. I'm really I'm kind of he's like, I really just and she finished his sentence for him. Silence. Yeah, I really just like silence, and like enjoying my time. I really, that's actually some real stuff he said, is that I'd rather sit with myself and be alone and quiet than go on a date with you. And she was like, wow, dreamy. Like, you can imagine she would ask him again on a date. So that's actually a cool thing he did right there. These are sometimes you don't know what company you're up against, and these were some dudes that they actually had some moves, like whether they meant to or not, like they were smooth up with it. Now, me myself, sometimes I've curated my appearance, and we all have like certain knacks in this life, like things that work, things that we have a hunch about, a clue about, and it gets traction with people. I don't know if you entirely get to choose that, because like if you try to do something that's not exactly your knack and you try to get on with it, I think if you flirt with it long enough, like Danger, it can click for you, but it's still maybe not click the same as what just like it clicks for you. And so for me, had been stuff like style, but I'm like sitting there with sometimes my appearance it'll garner attention, but these guys, they actually didn't call any attention to themselves. So you can be in there, and even though they're working there, you don't notice a lot of them being there. They're like that. So this lady was there, and she was like ordering different stuff. And also, before she came in there, they were talking about video games, and another one was like, this and that. Like, why don't you put together a whole bunch of chemicals and see how that goes over? That's got to be good for you, right? So he was somewhat a little bit mocking his own profession, because like some of like what we purchase, like when we're enjoying ourselves. The book, the Wu-Tang Manual, points out a key nuance and subtlety, and distinction, is that anything you consume is a substance. Like, if people say, oh, this person has a substance problem, yeah, but you eat a lot of stuff with a lot of sugar, or you eat stuff that you don't necessarily have to, that's not exactly towards your benefit, that's not disciplined, that's technically a substance problem. Not necessarily saying you overeat, but you just simply don't eat as you don't eat to your strong suit. You eat you indulge what you eat, or you fancy what you eat, or you fetishize what you eat, but you don't necessarily eat towards your health. So you could say and it could become a problem. So you have a substance problem at that point. But that manual, the Wu-Tang Manual, I think that had been RZA that made that statement, but I'm not sure if that was actually him, but I think it was RZA. He said that all things are substance. If you can appreciate that can open your mind about both what's called substance, and I've said, according to Morris Brooklyn, the YouTuber, entheogen is a much stronger term for things that affect your mental, physical, the combination of your mind and your body, that sensation of experiencing yourself. Things that affect that are called entheogens, and there's a number, I think maybe like 300 to 1,000 of them that are recognized in nature, but then there might be also combinations of that that are different, are part of, but a lot different, broader, potenter, and subtler, and different than what we would call drugs. And drugs have like a little bit of that's like a political buzzword. Certain words are buzzwords, especially I've noticed that words that are associated with minorities can be buzzwords. So you wouldn't call like pharmaceutical stuff drugs on the surface, but pharmaceutical stuff isn't necessarily associated with people of color. Now, I recently was pointing out that according to the book, a book by Mickey Royal, a lot of any establishment you would go to, likely, if you were to actually look at the way that it's functioning, even there in your face, but then likely behind the scenes, it's a lot similar to what would be called a profession that starts with the word P. But and it actually functions exactly like that. It injures people exactly like that. It disenfranchises people exactly like that. It favors people exactly like that. It biases people and skews exactly like that. But you wouldn't have a problem with this many umpteen other professions that function the same way as a profession that starts with a P. The profession that starts with the word P is loosely, maybe subconsciously associated with people of color, and that might be partly why it smacks egregious, which it can be equally as egregious as any other number of professions, but also similar to any other number of professions, but they don't have that same association with people of color. So I think that what's called drugs, even though people of color are by and large not necessarily, or if at all, the main proponents and users and curators and suppliers of what's called drugs, they're associated with drugs, just as you would put the person that the whoever is the most in the most vulnerable position will be associated with the liability in an undertaking. So the liability, the backlash, the horror, the trauma, the loss of drugs, because what's good has the potential to be good and bad. Entheogens can be good and bad, great and horrible. So can what's called drugs, but maybe what's called drugs might be more wholesale and less reviewed, less sourced, or that not as sturdy in terms of sourcing reliably. So drugs as they're experienced on the street can be, and likely, if anything, would be, if anything, skewed more so traumatic and detrimental, but they don't have to be. And as drugs, they don't have to be, though they may likely be as they're engaged as drugs. But then, but all I meant to say is that they're associated with, they're on the surface associated with people of color. When you hear that word drug, likely. So that might be part of why it's a buzzword, an actual political unit and designation and code word to invoke different levels of the state apparatus. A lot of things are invoked as code. So you see these military people or these paramilitary people or these law enforcement professionals bantering, joking, enjoying a meal. They still look disciplined and important, but they're as benign potentially. But then they're over here releasing hellfire on this one. So the difference is the code that's at play. So when they're eating at an establishment, they're on this code. When this subject or suspect or vehicle looks like this and is engaged like this, and then this is said by that suspect, or this is what's said to that suspect, now the code changed. The designation of force and the policy changed with the code. And so what can be benign can be egregious. But a lot of things are like that. They function as code words. So drugs and professions that start with P are like that, where it would function like a code word. But that dynamic of what's called the profession of the P is in almost any line of any field of undertaking that has to do with human beings forming a family of some kind, where the duties are dispersed differently, the benefits differently, the costs differently, the externalities, that's the word for the detrimental cost of something, of some form of business. Any form of business is attended by externalities, likely like a factory passing off pollution as a byproduct of the profit they're creating. Any manner of association and family will have externality, byproduct that will be directed exactly to the most vulnerable, or the one with the least standing. And so that's us people of color in the modern Western context. And so we are associated with these words, drug and the profession that starts with P. But drug and the profession that start with the P are actually likely the oldest professions and the current greatest professions. And any other profession that's about any other undertaking, line of work, discipline is attended and sustained and running through it is that profession that starts with the P. So you can say it's still actually the profession with the P. The profession that starts with the P is not the oldest profession. It's the only profession, if you think about what a profession is and how it skews and breaks down. But then the byproduct of that, the bad part of that, the bad association of that is exactly applied to marginal people, not necessarily minorities, but a lot of minorities, but marginal people. And so I just wanted to point out that distinction. But so these people, they were talking about, like, they were mocking their own profession. Is that, they're saying, it's actually kind of silly to put a whole bunch of chemicals together and ingest them, it might not be the best idea. That's what they were joking among themselves. But you could extrapolate that they were indirectly, that's called like an oblique comment, like from the side. They were making an oblique reference and mockery of their own profession. And a lot of people, if you look at like a lot of people's humor, like in a lot of like if you get people to like banter like among themselves, a lot of their humor is more so mockery, and it's not entirely like spontaneous or like timely or profound or enlightening, but it's more so mocking different things. And so I've had friends that were enlightening with their humor. They would be mocking things as they were enlightening with their humor, but they were more so enlightening. But they could mock with the best of them, and they could be wicked in mocking something, mock it a lot harder than a lot of people mock it, like with like half-assed jokes like that they say in earshot of customers. But still, a lot of joking is mockery. But especially like that, what you would hear like that when people are like gossiping and joking at the same time, a lot of it is actually just mocking things, and it's like not even that funny. It's just like mocking for the sake of mocking and laughing for the sake of mocking, but it's not actually that like comical. So there's actually maybe a distinction between what's comedy and what's mockery, and what's comedy can be mockery, and what's mockery can be comedy. But true mockery is a little bit less of comedy, and maybe true comedy is a little bit less of mockery, but less is more. But then and then so after they were making those type of statements, then this person came in, and they were ordering stuff. I think the person might have been, they might have been aware of my presence there, because I would kind of stick out a little bit, and I was having like some different like style moves that I was using, that I not style moves, but just like I'd been like curating different like elements of my appearance that I was sitting there with. But I wasn't like trying to floss or nothing. I was just minding my business. But sometimes some people, it's strange, like some people more call attention and some people deflect attention, but it's not actually necessarily cooler to call attention, because even if you have things that would look cool about you or are cool about you, just the fact that you're drawing attention inordinately, that's not the best look. So some people, you won't know that they're in a room or that they're present somewhere until they speak up, and when they do so tactfully and appropriately, and it's really cold like that. So this lady was like, she was there like ordering drinks and this and that, might have been aware of like this young man, or this man that's over there that has like a appearance that's not exactly what's normal in the vicinity. But then this guy was like, this guy came out of nowhere, and he's like, so I just wanted you to know that you had ordered this, but actually if you were to order it as this and you take this off, it'd be like a lot cheaper, and it'd be like the same thing. And so I was thinking that I would be concerned if you did it this way, because it might not, it was a little bit concerning, because it might be like too much. So I was thinking like if you just did it like this and that, then it would be nice, and then it would be like it would be like a little bit cheaper that way, you know. Man, she near about fell in love. She was like, that is spot on. Do you have like do you have an album? Do you have no, I mean, she was really beside herself and moved that he would be that paternal, because he actually had a really paternal tone. Like when he first started, it was like it was very, very less is more. So it's very subtle, very graceful, elegant, paternal though. And then also he was telling her what would potentially save her money or be more efficient. So it's a parent telling the best thing, that is what but was more significant, that he was being paternal, and he told her what helped her. She got exactly what she was looking for, because you could say that she went in somewhere. What you don't actually appreciate why you go somewhere, why you do things. Partly when people go to places like an establishment, they're going for the experience as much as the product, for something like that. But what is the experience of especially like things like coffee? Coffee is interesting because in the United States, in the West, class is not overt and always clear necessarily, but it's still important and active and consequential and demanded, as it is in any iteration of human living, because we're always going to be within family structure. We're always going to be within association structures, which amount to family structures, which amount to a pecking order, a rank, whether it's overt or not. And probably the realer rank is actually what you express more than the insignia, because as I said in another video, that I think I got this from Nassim Nicholas Taleb, you will have a formal structure that's the above board recognized rank, and then you'll have a de facto structure that's the actual experience and influence of different members, and those reinforce they actually substantiate one another and validate one another, and operate hand in glove and do different maneuvers that the other can't. That's similar to cop and robber, but they make the structure viable. It's both necessary, the formal and informal. One is not more consequential or less than the other, but I've said that most things have a support, a static support. Most things that are kinetic, according to Arthur Avalon, something's kinetic has a static component, static support. So like a car that drives, it has a road that stands still that allows it to drive the support. You could say that a structure, a business, it has the imminent expressed power, rank that is consequential, and it is a foot to be put on anyone's neck. That also makes the place run, but it's like the boot. But what sustains for it, what pays for the boot, is the actual experience and seasoning and swag and effectiveness of the veterans, with and without whatever degree of official title they have. That's the support. And I've said in another video that maybe what support is more dynamic, in that you don't see it move, but it actually moves more for not moving and for allowing to move what moves, and moving in the exact equal and opposite direction of whatever moves to make that thing move. So you could say that's at play anywhere, anyhow, is the formal and informal. So you go into an establishment and you have the formal structure, like people's appearance, their perceived status, but then you have the informal, is actually their actual moves, their social graces and things like that. But the realist expression and the undeniable expression and effect of status is class. Class is like class is status par excellence, undeniable. You cannot deny. You cannot, like a lot of people, they may or may not appreciate your background and your experience, but they can't deny the class that you convey with what is yours to convey. So however we have always, according to Arthur Avalon, we always have a combination of freedom and bondage, because we are interdependent in this life. We always have a means of moving, of choosing, and a means of being bound in obligation. We always have choosing and obligation in nearly any, even if you're handcuffed, you can still move to this degree. You still have this amount of mobility and this amount of obligation. But according to Arthur Avalon, the more congruent and upright and worthwhile and forthright things that you choose to say and do and be and think, the more freedom you have. But it's not completely ultimate until it's ultimate. So none is free until all are free, according to a gay rapper that I heard long ago. And that was a poignant and excellent statement, and true, likely, is that in this life, as we're existing with duties and living to do and growing to do, choosing to do, suffering, enjoying upon choosing, that it's our prerogative. And I think what we would like and how we're here is we'll always be both bound and free to a different degree, but an actual symmetric with our actual goings on and our obligations and undertakings and challenge and growth. But a point when we would really be free, to be free without obligation, would be when we're all free. But when we're all free, you're going to experience so much love and beauty that you're going to want to express love that is served, and that's going to require, again, obligation. So that might actually be unavoidable, but also beauty par excellence, and you wouldn't want to avoid it if you knew what it really meant and led up to and was from, is freedom and obligation, joy and service. Joy for serving for joy is ultimate. But class is what cannot be denied within what you can maneuver, what you can choose, what you can do, but also next to and juxtaposed and contrasting and informing and reinforcing and being reinforced by and informed by your obligation and duty is your class. I a little bit lost that train of thought because I made a little bit too many statements right there in a row. But so you'll have, like, that class can't be denied, and that's what your realist rank might be. You have this rank on the surface, but what do you appreciate it for? With your experience, with your lack of experience, with your title, with your lack of a title, what do you appreciate it for? The way that you express yourself, carry yourself, convey yourself, that is your class. But so when you go to a place like, especially like a coffee shop, a lot of times in a coffee shop, it really, something about the dynamics, the actual the history, because coffee is like what we have is the closest thing to tea. Tea is very important in a lot of other cultures, not only because it's enjoyable. It's like, it's one is that it's kind of an acquired taste. Tea and coffee are an acquired taste. Therefore, to be able to appreciate them, just to go to a venue that serves that, you're already expressing a degree of class, because you would have to have acquired that taste, and you'd have to do some living to do that, and then you'd also have to likely do some working to do that much living. So you'd have to have had some experience in seasoning, and that would amount to an understanding that speaks to your status and stature as an adult. And then that you would from there be able to, or experience enough, versed enough to enjoy an acquired taste as fine as coffee or tea. You're already expressing a lot of that just by being present at a coffee shop and engaging with it. But then you're also spending your finance and being and publicly spending finance, which also speaks to your stature. That is, maybe stature in class is stature in class is actually, that might be the same word. That's just a different mode of the same concept, stature in class. But and maybe class might be like the actual the behaviors and the both the liminal and subliminal, but more so liminal, because subliminal, because when it's subliminal, it's more believable because you're not conscious of it. So you would have had to really experience it and express it and be experienced for expressing it with others to really have the mannerisms, that is the grace, that would speak towards class, but that would ultimately speak towards stature. And stature might be how you are officially recognized for having the experience that would give you both class and stature, is your stature. So a lot of times, like when people say like, yeah, but how old are you? How old you are is actually like your license of stature. It's not necessarily your corresponding to your physical or mental maturation. Both is that serves you as a strong suit, and as that's a vulnerability as you begin to advance, or have you not yet advanced. But what actually your because it's very prominent. This is what your name is. This is what you owe something according to your name. That's very powerful. Your means of livelihood, your potential as an agent in the society of any undertaking, your actual the actual the seat of your power within a system that we have as such is a legal system, a punitive legal and financial matrix network institution, formless institution, finance and legal, is your identity is what's within that, is what you're entitled to, and also what you owe. Your duty and your entitlement, both your privilege and your duty are both are exactly upon your identity. But then also your given age is your stature. The stature of your identity corresponds to your given age, and that's what's so serious about age, is not only your actual maturation, which we do mature within cycles, and cycles can be appreciated, but they're not necessarily linear, straightforward as our age is handed to us, and that's because we're having our stature handed to us, not our real development, and our real existence within the cycles that make life possible. So when you're in a coffee shop, you're looking for an experience of like class, and like you're looking to express class. You're looking to experience a certain thing when you go into a coffee shop. But I think the highest you're looking to both express stature and experience stature. Other statured people, show your stature. You walk in there, you're not going to be the highest of stature likely when you go into a coffee place in any location, because there can be appreciated that there will likely be someone of a similar or greater stature as is appreciated by other people. A person could anticipate that walking into a coffee establishment, but then they'd also like to experience the stature of other people and be around other people that are statured, some higher than. So like they say that what's called hypergamy, and it's a little bit sexist to apply hypergamy to females only, but I think part of that might be because females aren't appreciated as relishing sexual contact the same as males. So from that standpoint, according to the concept of hypergamy, a female will defer to but also prefer a partner that is perceived to be at her level of selectivity eligibility, but also selectivity. The combination of that, the dynamic range and combination of that, a female is generally anticipated within proponents of the concept of hypergamy to appreciate and or accept and defer to or prefer a partner that is at their level of eligibility and selectivity, and or above. That doesn't mean that she may not like or appreciate someone that would be perceived as less, but that person as less would have to have something compelling that would transcend and supersede whatever other calculations or metrics or sensibilities would lend themselves towards the perception of being at or above a person's level of eligibility and selectivity, as the exception proves the rule. But then a male, the purposes of attraction and relationship are a little bit different for a male. It's appreciated. It's such that a male is appreciated as potentially relishing sexual contact and also capable of swapping and interchanging sexual partners. And it's appreciated that a male, a lot of sexual contact, it's about power. They say, I've heard it said that all of life is about sex and sex is about power. But power is about identity. So a male has a different form of psyche than a female. Is appreciated. That might be what it is to be male and female, is the quality and I don't mean quality is better or less, but the actual the dynamic, the constitution of your identity, especially along your ego, but just your identity. If you have a male psyche, identity, experience of yourself, mentally and physically, but especially mentally first, then you would have a male experience of yourself and of life. If you have a female psyche, then you would have a female experience of yourself and of life, and largely be female from that standpoint, not necessarily limited to your anatomical structure in the modern paradigm, or maybe of any paradigm. But as we have grown to experience what it is to be human, currently it's respected and is frankly, it can be very sexy to be exactly what you are at essence. Your essence being primary to your anatomical structure. They can maybe reinforce one or the other, but your essence is what you really are, and nobody can argue with what your essence is. Because you can demonstrate it through mannerisms and through class, and no one can argue with class, and no one can argue with essence. And at essence, your class is expressed in the essence of what you are, and the essence of what you are is somehow related to your class. And when I say class, I don't mean in terms of being wealthy, but just your congruence as a person, your beauty as a person, your strength as a person, your shortcomings, also what really makes you you. All that makes you how you carry yourself and how you engage other people. That is your class. And good is not necessarily good, and bad is not necessarily bad, but just what's real is what's real and is what's valuable. So I don't mean to be making it, I'm just trying not to smack judgmental. Smack means like taste. I'm not trying to like come off judgmental on this, but males, upon the mode of sexual contact in relationships, the posture, the experience of sexual contact would be different from someone that is essentially male or essentially female, and therefore it may be the same. Not that it's more or less joyful to experience sexual contact as male or female, but it would be a different expression of power in sexual contact, whether understanding oneself and experiencing oneself as male or female. Then it would reinforce the identity and the needs of the human being, and their identity being one of their needs would be different, male and female. Therefore, a male may appreciate partners differently, up, down, up, sideways, and down differently than a female would. But not that a female can't appreciate attraction up, down, and sideways, or a male can't up, down, and sideways, but it may and could likely be different, a male essence and a female essence, as that goes. But so all I meant to say is that a lot of times when people go into a place, like they're looking to experience stature, it's a very you could say that coffee shop is a very statutory experience, in that we're experiencing one another's stature and perceiving one another's stature constantly in a coffee venue. But part of that and throughout all of that is paternalism. So it's likely that if you could imagine that if a person walked into a coffee shop to have that experience, whether they brought people with them to tag along with them, but they still wanted to be there and chose to be there. If they're calling the shots when they're there, they walked in there because they wanted to have an experience of what is sold there, the actual the products that are largely based on chemicals, but just the products sold there. They wanted to enjoy that. They wanted to likely to save on that and not be wasteful with that, which is part of an expression of stature, to be economical. But then also, no one is trying to waste anything if you know how punishing the reality is, especially with inflation. But then also, they likely wanted to have some experience of paternalism, because paternalism is rife in rank and imminent within stature, class, standing, the experience of having an adult experience. You walk in there because you want to have an adult experience. What's an adult experience? An experience of stature, class, standing, that is paternalism. So this person, he saved her money, and also he assumed a paternal tone with her, and he got her the products that she wanted, that she did want to enjoy. He gave her exactly what she wanted when she came in. That is smoother than smooth. And he didn't overdo it or oversell nothing. He was very cold with it, and he wasn't necessarily like trying to impress her or nothing. He just simply did his job. A customer came in, wanted something. She may or may not have made her presence known to him. He may or may not have made her presence known to her. Hey, by the way, I just wanted to let you know, it was a little bit concerning because you had this and that, and I thought you might have been overdoing it. So I thought if you did this, you could say this, and if you change that, you could have it the same way how you wanted it, and it might be nice that way. Oh my God. So that might have been love at first. That might have been love at first critique. But it's exactly what that person wanted, and it's smoother than all the style stuff, whatnot, that I like to think about. So I just want to say that big bank take little bank. Big paternalism takes style, is might be the highest. The highest style. And as that book goes about by Daisaku Suzuki, what that tea master employed was class to survive the mismatch with the Ronin that the Ronin had incited, with a Machiavellian maneuver around honor. And then also in that same book, there's a story of a rat that squatted in a royal palace, and all these fancy cats with all their fancy styles and enunciating and aware of their own style were failing to displace and uproot a rat that had squatted in a royal palace. And finally they got the royal cat to come in, and the cat had the mouse running in terror and dispatched the cat. Not dispatches in killing, but it dispatches in displacing the cat instantly. And when they were asked, after they had talked about all their great styles, they asked the cat how the cat may have done that, and the cat said, "For I am a cat and it is a mouse." It had the exact entitlement, class, standing, stature of a royal cat that understood itself to be not only a royal cat but just a cat. It understood itself a cat, and therefore it was understood to be a cat by a rat. And so a rat actually defaulted to the actual the mechanics of nature. What is natural for a rat to flee in the presence of a cat, not a fancy cat but a cat. So a rat may not flee in front of a fancy cat, but an actual cat, an authentic, congruent cat that understands itself as a cat, maybe from the season. So what does the highest seasoning or erudition amount to? Like the different graces and privileges and benefits and entitlements, but also learning that you would have around something like wealth, like being royal, is that it makes you simply what you are. Because they say money makes you more of what you are. So you could say that wealth made that opulence, made that royal cat what it is. So what is a cat more than royal, and what is more royal than a cat? It's along that lines, and that's actually what I saw demonstrated, is that now we weren't having a swag competition because I was minding my own business, but I recognized that of all the people in that coffee shop that could have been there, the one that had the best look with that person was the one that they did their job, and they were the only one that was being paid to be there. But then also, they gave that person exactly the experience that they want. It was exactly appropriate, tasteful, tactful, but also a little bit paternal. So I've made these different videos on this channel. I wanted to preface that as much as it's worthwhile to appreciate and recognize the application and expression and presence of paternalism as it functions around you, or maybe as you express paternalism or have it expressed to you. And we probably all do some of both of that in this life, because everyone plays the fool, but everyone is the fool and everyone plays the fool, and everyone calls someone a fool, but there's a transcendence to any rule, and the exception proves the rule. So actually, maybe the most appropriate thing in life would be to actually be paternal. But then, as I've said in this video, the highest, the validation of that and the highest application of that is care. So that man was also showing that he cared, that she had a good time, that she got what she wanted, which is a little taste of paternalism, and that it was economical for her. So he got to enjoy expressing and being enjoyed for expressing paternalism, but it was because he cared. So care had been the greatest style, is care. So that might be the greatest style, Care Bear style. But I wanted to say then that the premise of this video was that another style tip, and this is a little bit of a different topic, but also maybe a kind of a deep concept, is that I think that a lot. So I was at a store yesterday, and I was procuring like very simple glasses, and I'm a little bit taller of stature, and this place had like a mirror, and the mirror was like kind of stooped down for like people that were shorter stature to look up to it. But it was very awkward from my standing to get the right angle to look at it. But actually, I haven't been looking in mirrors for like the last couple months. One is that I've been a little bit on hardship, but I actually read a book by there's a woman named Twyla Tharp. She's a dance choreographer, and she has this book about all it takes to be an artist. And she's not relishing or romanticizing being an artist, but she just to actually be an effective, to actually create and curate art. But she's curating like the materials that go into being an artist, but to make of yourself an artist, whether a dancer or anything, even any field of work that you do, you can actually appreciate it and approach it as an artist. And maybe that might be the greatest standpoint for anything. So a lot of people say, yeah man, you go to school for the arts, that's bogus. No, actually you're bogus for approaching whatever you're understanding not to be art as different than art, because you wouldn't be as strong as you could be if you appreciate it as an artist. Which one do you want to work on something that means something to you? The one who approaches it as a job, or as a hobby, or as a skill, or as a forte, a strong suit, or the one that approaches it as an artist? How great could you not be? How effective could you not be if you approach something as an artist? So what she was saying is that actually she, even though she's an actual dance choreographer, and a lot of people may know that a lot of dance studios are attended by a lot of mirrors, but she actually recommended people not to look in mirrors, and that there's something of a blessing that comes when a person looks in a mirror, when it doesn't look in the mirror. That's actually kind of deep. And I had been aware that she said that in the past, but I actually started invoking it lately, and I think I've gotten better and actually better experiences with people by training the discipline of not looking in the mirror intentionally. And so if you think so I was at this clothing store, and then so I go like, hey, do y'all, even though I hadn't been looking in mirrors, I was gonna try on the glasses. And then I was like, do y'all have any sturdy mirrors? Oh no, just that one. I was like, oh yeah, I saw that one. And this guy, he walks over there, and I'm sorry, a lady, she walked over there, and she was like, she wanted to hold the mirror so that she appreciated that it was like a little bit difficult for me to like get the right angle, look at it. but she wanted to hold the mirror. She's like, oh yeah, I just want to make sure that thing doesn't fall because I'm not trying to have 7 years of bad luck. And that's deep because one is that I think that that's actually thinking a little bit linear, because the next day isn't promised. If you're having bad luck isn't just seven. If you have what can be called 7 years of bad luck, that's not 7 years of bad luck in a straight line on a flat piece of paper. That's like 7 years of bad luck per year. Per 7 years would be the experience of bad luck, because one experience of bad luck can be as costly and as difficult to surmount. So if you're having bad luck, it's more so along the line, it's more so 7 to the 7th power of bad luck if it's going to be bad luck. But also it's interesting that they have this myth of bad luck from mirrors. Now, how could a mirror be bad luck? If you talk about it in like a strict technical sense of like cause and effect, a lot of things that would be called magic. And that, just using that word is going to change the tenor of this video, and I didn't mean to compromise this video because that's a little bit of another polarizing word. But what that word refers to is an appreciation and application of cause and effect, that is subtle influence, to subtly influence what is within our influence, to our liking, advantage, strong suit, or purpose, would be what's called magic. But you could think about that maybe like in technical terms, like, okay, so if this and that happened, this is the effect that it's going to have on temporal reality by making that misadventure or mistake with the actual physical apparatus of what's called a mirror. Mirrors are deeper than they might seem. There's a YouTuber named Enoch the Freestyle King, and he has a content about how profound mirrors are. According to Arthur Avalon, that which is pure does not reveal its shape or presence. If something is completely pure, it's devoid of color, therefore perception. If it's completely pure, a mirror may somewhat be purer than anything else you would come across, such that it can reflect you. And more so, the reason it reflects you is because as light disperses upon your appearance, reflects off of you, the impurities that the light reveals in you, and that are also conveyed by the reflection of the light. I'm not sure how the light makes the color come off of you, but it's actually the mirror is so pure that the light interacting with both the mirror and you is revealing you, because you're more so impure than the mirror. The mirror is that much purer than you, in terms of the grade of the substance that you're composed of. Not to say that a mirror is better or that humans are not beautiful and complete, but generally speaking, there's more anomalies and incongruencies within the constitution of the human flesh than there would be in a mirror, such that the mirror reflects the is it me or is it you, like who gets pushed and who pushed. The mirror more so is gonna reflect, and we're not going to reflect the mirror that we can perceive, because we're more so composed of impurities. But what's deeper than that is that I think that what could be, it may have been associated with a mirror and bad luck, is that looking in a mirror, it makes you a little bit conceited to look in the mirror. It gives you the sensation that you actually know what the heck you are looking like to people, because you actually really have not seen your face without either a mirror or a smartphone or some similar apparatus appendage bolstering the range of human perception, but also the angle of human perception and the standpoint and vantage and perspective of human perspective, such that you cannot actually look at yourself in the face without the accommodation of a mirror. So and from that standpoint, you actually don't have a face. But you have something that can be appreciated as a face by others, and that sensation and experience is what your face may be. But you actually don't have a face in your experience. That what you're calling a face is not part of your experience in this life. It's not part of your experience to have a face. But looking in the mirror makes you perceive that you have a face and have a concept. So a lot of people, like there's some horror movies from back in the days, and one of the most graphic images of any horror movie, the most graphic themes of any horror movie, classic, contemporary, or otherwise, would be this film where the person would make a mask of their victims' faces and then wear it. And that mask was like, it's like a desecrate. It's like, one is that it's kind of like jealousy. So it's like so what is wickeder than, there's nothing, almost nothing that I know of wickeder than jealousy. To actually strip a person of their face would mean that you actually enjoy their face such that you're jealous of it and you want it for yourself, even if it means stripping that other person of their own face, their ability to live, and the blessings that would come to them by bearing the face that is congruent to them and represents them. That's quite egregious on a symbolic level, as like as jealousy. But then also it's a little bit mockery too, is that when you're wearing someone's face as it's desecrated and rotting like that, and hollow like that, it's really so it's both the highest expression and symbol of mockery and jealousy at once, and also admiration at the same time. That's almost spiritual, how profound that is. It's actually transcendent. It's actually, it's not entirely wicked. It's a form of art, but it's not entirely art, because there would be violence that attended that. It's transcendent. It's so, when something becomes total, according to Osho, it transcends itself. So you heat something up enough, it becomes completely itself. It transmutes into something different. Something becomes completely evil, it transmutes into something different. You could say maybe art. That might be the highest transcendence and landing point for things that transcend. It becomes art. Something's that wicked as that horror film. The horror film's art, but also that concept of stripping a face like that. That's also that's actually art. But it's daunting, and it's almost traumatic. But but I think that looking in the looking in the mirror is a little bit like that, where it gives us a face, and your concept of your own face is about as accurate as a hollow face on a scary movie that's been confiscated from someone else. Is that it's like that it's something about that looking in the mirror, it gives us a sense of having a face, and it can be, and actually a lot of your fortune and misfortune, even if you want to talk about like 7 years of bad luck, what would 7 years of bad luck look like? It wouldn't necessarily just be things messing up around you, things falling, things not working out. That's the secondary part. The actual first part of it would be the compromising of your relationships. And what the highest, most potent way to compromise a relationship is to think more of oneself than one ought to think, or to be appreciated as thinking more of oneself than what ought to think. That is the single most egregious. I think the word is foul pass. I got that from another YouTuber named I think Marquette. I want to say Marquette Daniels, but I think just Marquette. He was talking about that word foul pas. I had seen that a ways back, but that's like a social disgrace, like a etiquette maneuver, a statement, an appearance that is a disgrace socially, and a consequential disgrace enough to get a person fired, hanged, imprisoned, marginalized, ostracized, any number of heinous outcome. When that occurs, and then maybe also when it's active and acted upon, that experience is called a foul pass, and the greatest of which would be to think more highly of oneself than one ought to. In the past, they talk about things like a tribe, and then this one was the as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, damn, I gotta be careful, because I might have been like coming off wrong at different places. But you're in a tribe, and then you were the most valiant hunter on the hunt, and then you think too much more of yourself, and now they're fornicating, then dancing around you, then sacrificing you. I think I got that from the comical but also enlightening YouTuber, Real Social Dynamics, Tyler. He says a lot of stuff about like socializing, social etiquette, and being like free around people and like spontaneous. And he made that analogy. You can imagine something similar like that had potentially once happened in some human arrangement, but it's actually the same thing now, which is that if you make the wrong foul pass to think more highly of yourself, you can have the same effect as getting ostracized or banned from a group, whether you had done something officially wrong or not. But I think that sometimes, a lot of times, that so your misfortune, it's gonna come. It's not likely gonna be in your face. the greatest blessing that you can get, or also the greatest punishment that you can get, is something that you didn't see prepared. So you go visit this place, someone's been waiting for you. Now if that's a blessing and fortune, wow, you guys had a cooler with this in it, man, I didn't even know they sold stuff like this. You had this prepared for a person. That's the greatest. But then also the worst would be someone has something that you didn't anticipate prepared for you. So premeditated blessing and premeditated injury is the highest form of blessing and injury as the experience of intention goes. But then maybe indifference would be part of that. So actually the blessing that's prepared for you out of your awareness, the detriment that's prepared for you out of your awareness, and the indifference, like say the rejection, that could also be part of the punishment. All that, when it's the most active and potent, it's going to be done out of your perception, but also by other people. Then comes the deprivation in finance and means that amounts to different things breaking and messing up and injuring different people. But it had actually came from the social graces or lack thereof had been the misfortune stemming from, and a lot of that might have come from how we presented ourselves and how much we are appreciated for appreciating ourselves, and as our presentation, and how that goes over can amount to what's called bad luck. But some of that would come from, oh man, that they think they're this and that. That person would have to think they're this and that. That might actually come from the mannerisms that we get looking into a mirror. Is that a mirror might actually be messing up some of our graces in the way that our face is naturally supposed to function. And I actually I talked to a person not too long ago, and he said that they had seen in some other source, I don't know what source that was, is that actually human beings may not have been intended to be staring up in their face in mirrors all the time. And that might be an actual recent that might not have actually been a beneficial invention in the mirror, and it might have been I know maybe life wouldn't be possible as it is now, that we do somewhat need to be familiar with what we appear like to an extent to form a congruent identity with others. So it may be indispensable, but still we indulge it a lot. And if you think about it, so what was the best experience in your life? According to the people like Jung, like psychologists, the deepest experience of living, the most enjoyable, had been that inside the womb. But if you think about it, I think that, okay, so what's the greatest experience in life and of life? For me, the greatest experience in life is about to open a present. A present is available. The appreciation of the anticipation and the imminent reality of a present on the way or being perceived. A present that's soon to take form is one of the greatest experiences in life, according to but what is the greatest experience of life? The greatest experience of life is to so the greatest experience of life is to anticipate a present, because that's the greatest thing that normally happens to us of our lifetime. But the greatest experience in life, that is the greatest possible experience to be had in life, which is, so we have experiences of life, and of life for other people having experiences of life in us in of their life. But the great experience in life that is to be had in life, in people that are having experiences of life, ourselves and others, and ourselves for others' experience and other people for ours, is to be received as a present. To be received as a present is the greatest experience in life, because that constitutes and represents all of our sacrifice, because everything can be appreciated as to a purpose. Even when you're enjoying yourself, like you're enjoying eating food, or you're enjoying making love, something different, the greatest things we normally more so appreciate in sense that we're doing this for something, towards an objective. It always feels like it's towards an objective. Whatever the vague objective it is, it always feels like it's for objective when we're enjoying something for the sake of it and unto ourselves. But what does that amount to? When do we get to actually experience the objective of all the things that we have enjoyed and suffered? Is when we are received as a present. So that's the greatest experience, I think. So I think that the greatest experience of life, it wouldn't be inside the womb. That would be the greatest experience of life might be inside the womb. The greatest experience in life is to come out of the womb and be received as a present, because you can appreciate that throughout human existence, human beings have received the birth of a child, the appearance of a child being born, as a gift. That's probably a very human, that might actually be what it means to be human and transcendent of any ethnicity, race, or social economic standpoint, is that when we have a child born, it is the experience of a gift. It feels like a gift if we're healthy. Um, I do have to say if we're healthy, because there's an exception to all things, and the exception proves the rule. So you can't say that that's all people's standpoint. But I would say by and large as a rule, but the exception does prove the rule. To be human, to be living maybe, but to be human, the birth of a child is a gift, or feels like a gift, whether or not you appreciate it, or it still can be felt as a gift. Because what is a child to you but a gift? An expression of your greatest love, your greatest sacrifice, your greatest passion, your greatest hope is what your child is. Your greatest self, what your greatest past, present, and future is your child. But so the greatest experience in life would be to be born as a child. That's the greatest experience, is to be born, not to be gestated in the womb, which may be deep and brilliant and beautiful. But the greatest experience would be to be born. And yeah, but they're crying. But actually, the greatest joy is attended by pain. Pain is part of joy, and joy is pain. So just because the child is crying doesn't mean that it's not potentially the best experience of their life. So that might be ecstasy. It doesn't seem like ecstasy, and it would be scary to the child, but it may actually be ecstasy. What is this great place? Who are these people smiling at me? Oh, it feels so good. It feels so good. That's like being born. But I think but what is the greatest part about that? Would be that experience is going to be conveyed through seeing. But the greatest experience in life, I think it might be, and what we miss about childhood, the deepest memories of the deepest joy of childhood, would be what it was like to look out more and more and see before we had a concept of our face. Even a young child, they know they have. Do I have a face, Mom? Does my face look like yours, Mom, or like Dad's? That's what a child might say, that because they're not having such a sensation of their face. They're still growing into the sensation of what it means to have a face, and the different ways people will look at them for having a face, especially not the negative aspects of that, but even some of the benign, that would be like when they start to have demands on their face, or they like their face to look like this and that, before you got around to any of that when you're young. Imagine just writing, if you want to, but we can still appreciate some of our experiences. So if you can imagine looking without glasses, like things are a little bit blurry, unclear, unknown, undecided, but interesting. That curiosity of life when young, what it feels like to ride a bike when you just barely got training wheels, or barely got your training wheels off. The sun is dissipating on they call that like dappled sunlight. Like I think when the sun is like coming through like an overhang of trees, and it's dispersing through the trees, I think that's called dappled light. That was one of my late aunts, her favorite word was dappled light. Dappled. But then if you can remember, like how cool water looks cool to kids. I think water is cool, especially to kids. But like you can imagine like how brilliant colors are when you're young, like green, your greens, your all your different colors look so beautiful and vivid and brilliant when you're young. But then also like water, so like just a water hose, somebody spraying their water hose, like someone gardening, something like that, just that spraying water, and then the light disperses through the water. How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? But then also, as it's new, and also as you're not in the habit of thinking yourself of having a certain kind of face to really look at, because your face somewhat blocks the way that your face blocks the way that you see things. Because actually, when you have a concept of a face, it blocks your vision, because as you're thinking about seeing something, you're thinking about what you look like. That might be what's damning about being frequenting mirrors, is that it gives you a concept of your face, and you are limited by that concept, the judgment, the conceit, the vanity, the delusion of thinking your face may be one thing, but it can be appreciated by anyone looking at you, is that you may be different than what you think of yourself. And that might be what people may not like about us, is not what we are or are not, but what we think about ourselves for being or not being something, and while being and not being something, but thinking oneself to be in something differently. That might be what's distasteful to a lot of people, and is a foul pass, and a soonest ticket to hell. And then maybe we come out of hell when we stop thinking that way, and part of that's because we're on such of hard times that we can't afford the vanity, or the standpoint, or the opportunity to stare in mirrors. Then we become more of ourselves, and we become better people, and then we're more enjoyable to ourselves and others. And so that might be how you, so that might be deeper when they say like not looking in mirrors. But the other thing I wanted to say is that when did life start to get really hard for a lot of people? A lot of people would appreciate that middle school is very traumatic for a lot of people. Middle school is hard for a lot of people. If you think about it, when you're young at that age, middle school, I did another video saying that I think that when a person experiences adolescence, that's that's a pivotal point in life. One is that a lot of the identity that we will be formed. So a lot of our adult identity, it actually stems from and begins to become crystallized and entrenched. Sounds like doesn't sound, that sounds a little bit like imbued, but like just when it really starts to form and take prominence and settle is around middle school. But that's exactly when transitioning from a young person to the beginning of the very beginning of like adulthood, and as different things are about, it's like the fertile ground for the blossoming that will become in another human being, a full-fledged, mature human being capable of enjoying and suffering all that can be called life, without necessarily supervision or mediation. Is just when you really, before you get to that point, you're in this fertile ground of adolescence that is attended by puberty, but somewhat may also prompt puberty, and that doesn't have to be physically maturation only, but mental gifts and giftedness and capacities and maybe strong suits and shortcomings will begin to take prominence and be expressed around adolescence. But also at that point, if you can remember your first crushes when you're young, that might be the deepest experience of love, might actually be puppy love. If you can imagine how perceptive you were to the interests, the inclinations, the taste, the whims, the capriciousness of someone that you were really deeply fond of when you're young. I think it happened like all the way up to like high school. In high school might be the higher end of that, when it's actually there's something a little bit real in it. And it's also it's not only the first time of being infatuated, but also that the infatuation was realized is like high school. For some of us it might not have been necessarily high school, but I think a lot it would be high school. But then before that, in very, very late childhood through to early and then throughout adolescence, you would be having similar crushes that you can feel with your entire existence. That type of crush. You imagine like the first day of school, like middle school, like as wicked as middle school was, and it would be intimidating for people on their first day of middle school. You can imagine that getting ready for middle school would be exhilarating. It would be like you got these cool outfits and like, man, I think that one outfit really does look cool. Like I'm getting ready to look, this is gonna look strong, but I gotta be cool. You know, I can't act how happy I am to show off how cool I'm gonna look in this outfit that I got. But I think this outfit is gonna be this is an outfit, like you're looking forward to that. You're actually excited about that because school is exciting, life is exciting, but also middle school is exciting. The social aspect is exciting. What kind of crush from last year in elementary am I going to see on the first day of school that I haven't seen for the whole summer or maybe a little while? But also the people from other schools that I haven't met yet. There's going to have to be some beautiful people there, some cool people there, some funny people there. But then also the ones that are already there that I don't know, like the older ones. I'm going to be meeting so many cool people, and they're going to be my age, and they're going to be so interesting and funny, and I can't stand that one. But there are going to be some that are so beautiful. All that's going through your mind, but then also you start looking in the mirror. Yeah, but what outfit am I going to wear? Am I going to wear this one? But does this one look cool enough? But what if I wear it with that one and that one and that one? And it might feel kind of fun or like kind of cute, like, oh yeah, they're trying out their outfits for school, but you don't realize that actually might be a source of some of your strife and some of your doubt and lack of confidence that could play into some of what the trajectory of your less than favorable outcomes and experiences then and beyond. Is that might be when life started getting hard. It might have been when mirrors started getting important, and I just wanted to point that out with this video. But I'll let this one ride with that, and just saying that I think we become more of ourselves when we stay out of mirrors, and we're more and we get on better with people, and we're more of ourselves like that. But there's always a levels to things. So the highest swag, even with that, is just actually caring for other people, and also offering and extending to other people what is appropriate in a situation and between people, what is appropriate, caring, and also what is appropriate, tactfully, tastefully, less is more, is the style move to make it that that's the real actual, that's the real deuce right there. Because if you're playing like spades and stuff like that in the game of spades, you can have a face like, okay, so you're playing spades, it's usually like 2-on-2, and you anticipate how many books or tricks or rounds you're gonna win in a game, and you count that off with your partner. You look at your hand, you look at their hand, and you count how many are we gonna make, how many books, how many tricks are we gonna make. The ones that you anticipate, you get to keep. If you over or underdo it, you don't get the full value of your hand. But then you already know, yeah, here go, like, so in the game of spades, all the other cards are of like equally, they go off by rank. So a six of diamonds is worth more than a 5 of clubs, I think. So all the other suits are the same, but spades cut the other suits, or I don't know if you call that suits or house. The other card suits, a spade will cut them. That is, veto them. But then a high spade will cut another spade, and a joker or like a trick card will cut a lower spade or a face card of another suit. But also a low spade will cut a face card of another suit. But so in a game of spades, you already know that the jokers, that's as good as in the bank. No one's worried about a joker. It actually doesn't change the outcome. Like a face card doesn't change the outcome, because that's already accounted for, adjusted for. I was talking to a person on a plane. They said that the actual cash money that you have in your pocket is the cream of your life, the actual cream of your sustenance and your strength as a member of a financial society that's based on finance. Because a lot of your other means, some of your property holdings, your assets, unless the asset is paid outright, then you can appreciate it as cash. But your different things that you have going on, they're tied up somehow, and they can be expected and calculated, adjusted for. But what you have after all that left over, that's yours to do with what you would like with, that you're free with, that's not tied to anything, that's the cash money, that's the cream, that's the actual real value that you have. That's your real bank, is what's in your pocket, according to this person. And this person is an accomplished person that made that statement. Then in spades, the cash might actually be the low spades, because all the other stuff is just going to cancel itself out. The other high suit, the high cards of the other suits, and the face cards of the other suits, and even the face cards of the trick cards, which can be appreciated as spades, they're anticipated, adjusted for. What's going to come down to what the game what the game might sway on and be decided on is your low spades that you got coming out. Yeah. But what about that one? What about that deuce that cuts everything? The low spade, the deuce cuts it. So I think that what cuts all the other style metrics is care and tact, care and tact. But then if you have a little bit of grace and art on top of that, you have a trifecta. And it amounts to paternalism if it's done right, is that you come off paternal like that. And that's exactly what someone came looking for, just to get a little experience of paternalism and get told what's good for them, as it saves them money, and or as it benefits them and saves them economically, and they get to enjoy something too. You just gave someone exactly what they're looking for. What's the coldest move? Give somebody exactly what they're looking for, no less and no more, but a little bit less, but still what they're looking for. That's the coldest style move above anything that I got to say. So I hope this can be enjoyable and worthwhile and beneficial to humane, wholesome, and enjoyable outcomes. Peace.